Welcome to another Sacred Cow Barbecue. It's April 7th. I'm Patricia Aiken, an average host with exceptional guests. It was an honor to visit political prisoner Eric Parker yesterday. He's been being held at the Henderson Detention Center with a lot of the Bundys are right now. Eric is the man in the photo from the standoff on the bridge. I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about, if you followed that at all. He's a family man from Idaho with young children who came to protect the Bundys 2 years ago. When we arrived in the waiting area, Cliven's sisters, Margaret and Lily, were there visiting as well. And we had a great visit with them as well, and it wasn't without tears, I have to say. And when I asked Eric if there was anything he wanted me to share tonight, he said to tell you that he loves you and that this is bigger than just the Bundys. Eric, incidentally, has never met Cliven, is being held in medical solitary confinement, as is Cliven. So they could be like right next door to each other. It's kind of ironic. And Margaret and Lily said the same thing, not hearing what Eric had said, but they said that Cliven always says to tell the other prisoners how much he loves them and appreciates what they did for him and his family. So it was a really emotional afternoon, I'll tell you. So tonight, we're going to have a jam-packed show. In the second half, we'll be getting an update from Tom Davis up in Harney County. Also, Sarah Redbuck and Deborah Sue Venatucci will be sharing what they observed in federal court in Portland yesterday. I'll just give you a hint. Sarah was so disgusted she walked out, but not without being tailed by agents. So that was kind of interesting. But right now, it's my pleasure to welcome back Lazaro Ecenarro back to the barbecue to go over more evidence that he's uncovered. How's your week been, Lazaro?
Terrific.
All right, I'm glad to hear it. And it's Keith Broders, his first time here at the show from the Constitution Club. First time he'll be riding shotgun. Glad you could be here tonight, Keith.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. And listen, I want to play a little video clip because I think it's really appropriate to what's going on in our country. It comes from a video that's entitled "The Veneer of Justice in a Kingdom of Crime," and that they're talking mostly about the banksters on Wall Street and how they failed to prosecute any of them. I mean, it was just an absurd story that this kind of criminality can happen in our country and they can get away with it. But he goes back to a clip from the Longines Chronoscope show that came from the 50s. And these two hosts, and pay strict attention to what they're saying. I think you'll get this. This is on John Titus, and then it goes into the older clip.
Now, sir, in general about the Department of Justice, isn't it true that nations that have fallen into totalitarianism, that one of the agencies of government that's become totalitarian or a tool of totalitarianism has been the Department of Justice? Isn't that one of the key agencies that shows deterioration?
A dictator must get control of the Justice Department and the police, the interior.
So if our own country, as many people fear, if our own country should ever fall into totalitarianism, the Department of Justice would be one of the first failures, wouldn't it?
It would be an absolutely essential cog in such a machine.
Well, I think that's a pretty telling statement. What do you think, Lazaro?
Well, what we're having out right now today, as you can see, it shouldn't surprise that what they stated back in 1950 is actually happening at the moment right now.
Yeah,
it's frightening.
It's been ramped up. And Keith, I don't know if you got to see a clip. There was some kind of an agent showing off this armored vehicle to reporters, and one of the reporters said, "Well, I can see this on the streets of, Iraq, but why would this be on the streets in America?" And he clearly said, because of all the constitutionalists, they have a lot of arms and ammunition.
Well, I think that President Obama is more concerned about the patriots in America than he is the Arabs in the Middle East.
Absolutely. We're their biggest worry because they haven't been able to take our guns away yet. But they're working real hard on it.
You know, the thing, Patricia, that I find very interesting the government tells us that we have to take guns away from individuals. We got to take away guns from individuals in order to make us safe. But when's the last time you heard the governments talk about disarming the governments? They have these bombs that kill hundreds of thousands of people potentially at a time. And frankly, obviously, I have a lot more faith and trust in individuals who believe in God, who have a conscience, than I do in a bunch of bureaucrats and politicians who have no conscience.
There's clear sociopaths. Well, we live in opposite land, so whatever they're saying, it's usually the opposite. Lazaro, we didn't have a chance last week to go into your background story and how you met Senator Ted Stevens, and I think she was a congresswoman, right, Nancy Schaefer? Well, they're both dead.
Correct.
I'm sure, an accidental plane crash. That's ridiculous, and Nancy Schaefer murder-suicided, in my opinion. So you want to give us the Reader's Digest on that story?
Back in 2003, 2004, my daughter was born, and at the time, I was excited as a father, to have a beautiful little thing. I'm here holding and looking into her eyes and on my arms. And then something with her mother went south, and I started realizing that it was not good. So the Child Protective Services got involved. And at that time, her name is Chandra L. Flannery, which she's married to Thomas Howard Hall right now. I went and put my documentation in to get full sole and legal custody. And and in the process, I thought it was going to be pretty easy because I had documentation from Child Protective Services stating that she was substantially neglectful. Well, it turns out during oral arguments and evidentiary hearing, the judge at the time, Sharon L. Gleason, and there was two others who were involved, Andrew Gwenny and Mark Ridner, and they played in their own perspective roles. But while I'm dealing with Judge Sharon L. Gleason and my lawyer at the time articulating what's happening with respect to the mother of my child being neglectfully abusive towards my daughter, and was substantiated by Child Protective Services, she never had her rights terminated. So, and this was in 4 consecutive years by 4 different social workers. The one was Pamela Washington. The other one was Kelly Serafine. Another one named Colin Worth, and another one Casey Grote, all substantiated in 4 consecutive years. So during this whole process, I'm trying to figure out, me and my friends are trying to figure out what is going on. So I realized that at the time, when we subpoenaed my sister-in-law to testify, she mute the subpoena, or basically violated the subpoena, and at the same time ended up representing her sister just because she's an attorney. Her name is Marissa K. Flannery in Anchorage, Alaska. So she represents Big Oil and the Native Americans.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and I took my documents to Senator Ted Stevens to validate the corruption, substantiate the corruption. He validated there was corruption in my custody case. He went ahead and 2 letters to the FBI, to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. At that time, there was supposed to be a couple things happening when he contacted, at the time, was Sarah Palin to do internal investigation with the conduct of the co-conspirators. That didn't materialize. What did materialize was Senator Ted Stevens being indicted. 2 things. When prior to Senator Ted Stevens being indicted, I signed 2 consent forms. One to forward the documents to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the other documents which is to go to Senator Nancy Schaefer to do an internal investigation in regards to Child Protective Services. And 2 questions rose during the conversation with Senator Ted Stevens. One was, how come the mother of my child still has parental rights and never her parental rights terminated? And the other one is, how in the world is my sister-in-law, my former sister-in-law, representing her sister? How Marissa K. Flannery is representing her sister Chandra L. Flannery at the time. Those are the 2 questions that came up. I looked at the man. I go, I don't know anything about legalese. I don't know anything about law, but this is what I do know, and that's $1 million question that maybe you can help me solve. And then with the evidence that I had was going to crumble the entire Child Protective Services, which is under the umbrella of the Department of Health and Social Services.
Right, and they're actually a racketeering organization, and Nancy Schaefer was actually completing a DVD or a video about Child Protective Services.
Correct. and she went to the Alex Jones show. Prior to she did a couple interviews with Alex Jones show, and then she was supposed to go see Alex Jones and within that week to release the name of the because there was a documentary coming out releasing the congressmen, senators, and representatives and judges with regards to the child pornography and what do you call it? You can name it. So sex slaves, and all involved with the Florida Children's Alliance, California, Georgia, New York. I mean, she was all over the place. What was so good about my evidence was like, how in the world is Child Protective Services confirming and validating that the mother of your child is substantially neglectful, yet she still has a child, while all these parents are losing their parental rights just on a simple allegation. I was like, you know what? You know more than I do. I have no idea.
Yeah, well, obviously what's good for the goose isn't good for the gander.
It appears so.
Right, and so where did that lead with Senator Stevens?
Senator Ted Stevens was indicted, and during the process of his indictment, the Department of Justice, the DOJ, the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the DA fabricated evidence against Senator Ted Stevens.
That's right.
The 6 of the co-conspirators that fabricated this evidence and committed fraud and forgery and perjury were never prosecuted because of Eric Holder. Eric Holder held up prosecution, but Senator Ted Stevens' name was vindicated by Brandon Sullivan and Senator Orrin Hatchett. However, I don't think that he was actually truly vindicated, and nor was Senator Nancy Schaefer's work. And this is one of the reasons why I'm here with the Bundys and finding out and seeing the truth of what's actually happening, that our government is conspiring in all this and actually enslaving us, all through the means of taxation and stealing our children.
Oh yeah, the CPS thing is outrageous. It really is, and I appreciate your willingness to speak out about that. So you came to the Bundy situation thinking that Ammon was kind of a loose cannon and not kind of a little crazy, and then you found out that perhaps he wasn't so crazy.
Correct. No, not at all. This rabbit hole is real deep. I mean, as deep as you can spin it. No different than the foster care agencies with Title IV funding with the federal government. I mean, this is a rabbit hole, and I want to go slow because I need to. This agenda definitely needs to come out. Prior to Lavoie's assassination, George Soros was working with Calico Resource and Barrett Gold Inc. This can be validated, and in a lot of different sources, including his comments. So they were orchestrating the assassination of George Soros. I mean, of Lavoie and actually Ammon and Ryan Bundy and everybody and all the Patriots. So if you look at the time frame with regards to when George Soros started buying gold were involved in the uranium with Barrett Gold Inc. and Calico Resource was on January the 17th of 2016. This is when George Soros gets involved. Also February the 18th of 2006. Well, I got a timeline. Also in December 2nd of 2015.
And let's remember that Ammon took over. That the initial protest in Burns was on Saturday, January 2nd, 2016. So it only took George Soros 2 weeks to jump in on this.
Right. And let me put this timeline together. So Soros continues buying gold with partnering up with Barrett Gold Inc. and Calico Resource on August the 18th of 2015. So we already have an established time frame, February 18th of 2016 all the way to August to November 16th of 2015. We already got a time frame. Calico Resource, remember that we got 3 mountains. The first mountain is called Blue Mountain. The second mountain is called Stens Mountain, and the other mountain is called Grassy Mountain. Calico Resource on January the 17th of 2016 also gets a go-ahead to start mining for gold. And there's a letter dated January the 20th of 2016 from Vance Thorsenberg from Calico Resource, and it's signed by Richard Riggs, the Assistant Director, Oregon Department of Geologists and Mineral Industries, Manager and Mineral Land Regulator and Reclamation Program. He even signs it. And if you go into the Oregon Department of Geology and Mineral Industries, in that website, when you go in there and you look at minerals, you'll see that the Calico Resources is already in the move to go ahead and start extracting gold. Now, during this whole process of this time frame, you have a couple of phone calls, communications going on between the White House, Loretta Lynch, Valley Jarrett, and James B. Comey from the FBI. One letter dated on January the 20th of 2016, Kate Brown, to Loretta E. Lynch and James B. Harney.
Loretta Lynch is the woman that replaced Eric Holder at the Department of Justice. Just for people that don't know these names and don't, keep that. I mean, it's not something most people keep on the tip of their tongue. And also, Valerie Jarrett is Obama's Henry Kissinger, his advisor that really runs the show at the White House, in my opinion.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm definitely going to agree with this. Then you have another letter in which Kate Brown directs this letter to Barack Hussein Obama on January the 20th of 2016. So Kate Brown sends two letters, one January the 20th of 2016 to Barack Hussein Obama, and the other letter is Kate Brown to Loretta E. Lynch and James B. Harney coming from the FBI. On top of it, how do I know this? Under the Freedom of Information Act, you can actually download Kate Brown's website with regard to the public records, and you can see the communication dated January 27th of 2016, where Valerie Jarrett communicates with Kate Brown. Then you have another communication dated January 24th of 2016 to Valerie Jarrett to Kate Brown. Then on January the 21st of 2016, you got Greg Brinson communicating with Kate Brown, including Valerie Jarrett.
Yeah,
this is January 21st, 2016.
Anywhere Brightside goes, people die.
Yeah. Then January the 20th of 2016, the FBI Director James Comey also communicates with Kate Brown. And then January the 19th of 2016, Judge Grassley communicates with Kate Brown. White House senior staff communicates with Kate Brown. Senator Wyden communicates with Kate Brown. And Sheriff Ward, David Ward, also communicates with Kate Brown on January the 19th of 2016. These time frames, all this comes down to is Calico Resource, Uranium One, Uranium Resource, George Soros, the White House, Washington, D.C., the entire Washington, D.C., and Main Street and Wall Street. If you look at at the time frame of the gold, and we have to look at gold back then, starting on when the Bundys arrived there, you're going to see how the market fluctuates with gold, silver, uranium, and copper. So all that's related to what happened. But Kate Brown is so deep with it, with Ted Ferrioli, with Cliff Bentz, that they and a lot of legislators that they created what we call Measure 34. It's a law, and it was created on the 74th Oregon Legislative Assembly, in which they amended the Measurement 37 in 2017, in which Kate Brown was involved. Ted Ferrioli was involved. Kate Brown was involved. Let me see. Jeff Merkley was involved. Brian Bukist, because Brian Bukist was also working and planning with Boyd Britton from Boyd Britton Welding to the assassination. They orchestrated of where the perfect place to assassinate Lavoie. And and actually this can be validated. That just came out recently on a news article named the Bulletin, dated Thursday, April the 7th of 2016, with the information and the outline that I sent. And they released about 1,000 pages of emails and texts. So this is between Kate Brown, your legislators, your senators, your congressmen, and the White House. So this is how deep this rabbit hole goes. But Kate Brown, what they did was create a thing called the Executive Order Number 15 of 2018. I apologize. Executive Order Number 15-18. And this executive order that Kate Brown wrote is all about sage grouse. All sage grouse, what it is a front.
Yeah, I think it's a front. Sage grouse, I think, is the what we call that bird that.
Okay.
It's another endangered species that they're trying to, get ranchers and off the land with.
Correct. Exactly. And why is all because of I read 226 pages of this. And the 226 pages, all it was about how the mine, how Calico Resource, how Uranium One, how Barrick Gold Inc. is going to impact the environment with regard to sage grouse or grouse, and get the ranchers, including the water rights, patenting the water rights. Remember, because they patent water rights. Remember, they incarcerated a gentleman for 30 days in jail and fined him for $150,000 for creating a reservoir to store water, which is ridiculous. And all this comes down under Measurement 37.
Right, that was on his own property up in Bend.
Exactly. And guess what? China is buying water from us. So Barack Hussein Obama and his cronies with George Soros and Harry Reid is selling our water to the Chinese. These are facts. I'm not saying this. I'm not creating this. By all means, look it up.
Oh, yeah.
This took a lot of time.
We've been seeing that. Keith, have you been seeing any of this?
I'm just completely flabbergasted at the lack of the people's knowledge in regards to the authority and the jurisdiction. Because frankly, to me, the legislative branch of the government was created to give we the people a voice. The members of Congress can take care of all of these problems. The president gets too much credit. He gets too much blame. The fact of the matter is, if our congressmen would enforce the Constitution, particularly Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, it's obviously very clear that the government, the executive branch and the judicial branch, have no authority, no jurisdiction over we the people. And frankly, the people are basically, due to their ignorance, are allowing their rights to be trampled upon. And that's why it is so important that we wake and shake our neighbors and help them to understand what is going on.
Okay, well, all right. Thanks, Keith. Lazaro. Okay, so you put this web all together. And when was the last one? Look, Lavoie is dead on January 26th.
Correct.
I've got the day. So when was the last correspondence between,
January 27th, 2016, Valerie Jarrett to Kate Brown.
And what'd she say? Mission accomplished.
We can't. Right now, we what we did was did the time frame.
Mm-hmm.
We got the time frame. We're trying to find those documents related to that time frame, and the way they dropped these 1,000 pages, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's everywhere. So this has to be systematically dissected, and to put into the way I'm articulating everything that's going on right now. Once we're able to put all that in a time frame, it'll be terrific. The only thing I did get is what is the letters from Kate Brown to the Oval Office and to James Comey and Loretta Lynch, and then also Valerie Jarrett's communication with Kate Brown and the White House.
Okay, so and yet the Patriots are the ones being charged with conspiracy.
Yeah, exactly. These guys are criminals. So what they did is they created these called statutory laws, and under these statutory laws, if you go into their website, you can start, and I beg all your audience to go to where it says the 74th Oregon Legislative Assembly. And once you get into that website, you're going to scroll down, and probably the second page, almost towards down the middle, you're going to see where it says Measurement 37. When you click Measurement 37, it's going to take you where Measurement 37 is defined on the Oregon Ballot Measure 37, which is a controversial land using ballots initiated that passed in the U.S. state of Oregon in 2004 and is now codified as the Oregon Revision Statute, ORS 195.305. I beg everybody to read the word codified, define it on a Black Law Dictionary or in their website. Also, define, look it up, research it, Oregon Revision Statutes. Now, when you hit the Oregon Revision Statutes...
Hold on for a second, if you would. Oregon Revised Statutes. Okay, so they passed a measure. They did it without a vote of the people, and then they've codified it. And so what is this statute about?
So this is about Measurement 27, which goes hand in hand with the Public Law 106-257 by Congress, which is the Oregon Land and Exchange Act of 2000. But they use that to sugarcoat it. Just actually what it is to land grab with the BLM and with the United States Department United States Forest Services and the Department of Fish and Wildlife,
right?
The Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Right, all the groups under the Department of Interior.
Exactly. I mean, they have like 10 names on this. This is like ABC. I mean, to its finest.
Right.
So when you go to ORS, which is the Oregon Revision Statutes, and you click on that little link, it's a hyperlink. It's going to tell you the Oregon Revision Statute, the meaning, and it says codified body of statutory law. Well, what is statutory law? But I'm going to finish this before, and I'll come back to that. Is what we call it, governing the United States of Oregon as enacted the Oregon Legislative Assembly and occasionally by its citizens initiated. The statutes are subordinate to the Oregon Constitution. That's what it says. But when you go to the statutory law and you hit that hyperlink, you're going to see what statutory law means. It says law set down by a body of legislators or by a singular legislator in the case of an absolute monarchy. That's what statutory law means. And I'll repeat it, and I'll read it again. It is written law set down by a body of legislators or by a singular legislator in the case of an absolute monarchy, opposed to oral or customary law or regulatory law or common law of the judiciary. Now, when you hit absolute monarch, which is a hyperlink, you're going to read is a monarchical form of government in which the monarch has absolute power among his or her people. This is what your legislators passed. Your legislators also passed in how to operate the courts, your unconstitutional courts under admiralty law. So when you say if you got constitutional rights and why Anna J. Brown does not have to show you her certified oath of office, nor does she actually care about the Constitution, is because your legislators gave her that power. All these legislators that I mentioned, and then some, have committed treason upon the United States of America and our land and our children. This is treason at its finest, and if Thomas Jefferson was alive right now, he'll be hanging these bastards on a tree, or at least rolling in their graves.
Yep, I agree, and they've done it all by this smoke and mirrors that they pretend. Keith, do you have a comment on this?
Well, I surely do, and it deals with the Constitution. And when the Constitution was written in Philadelphia on the 17th of September of 1787, the document was titled The Constitution for the United States. Now, one of the provisions in the Constitution is Article 5, which says is that in order to amend the Constitution, there's a procedure that has to be followed in order to change the Constitution. Now, the Constitution, in many ways, operates like a contract. In other words, you cannot amend an agreement or amend the Constitution just simply by changing some words around. The constitutions that you see today none of them say Constitution for the United States. They all say Constitution of the United States. Now, there's a huge, huge difference. First off, if the Constitution has been changed from the Constitution for the United States to the Constitution of the United States, that change was unauthorized. It is illegal. It is an unconstitutional change, which means that anything that says Constitution of the United States is a fraudulent document. It is counterfeit. It is not the Constitution for the United States. The difference between of and for is huge. If, for example, if you have children and you write a constitution or a rule book for your children to follow, it's the rule book for the children. It is the Constitution for the children. In other words, the children are subject to the rule book. In the case of the Constitution, if it's Constitution for the United States, that means that the government is responsible to follow the rules established by we the people. If you change the name to Constitution of the United States, you have just given the authority and the power to the government, because now the Constitution of the United States, it belongs to the government, not to we the people.
That's
correct.
That's a big distinction. And how have we been so bamboozled? I only could find a couple things when I wrote United States Constitution. Constitution of the United States of America. I only found a couple that said for.
It's not an accident.
Yeah, I guess not.
Right. And the problem is that we have to understand how we got here. And no different than what they did to Senator Ted Stevens, rest his soul. But if they can do it to Senator Ted Stevens and fabricating evidence and committing perjury and fraud and forgery and obstruction of justice and aiding and abetting and hindering prosecution, what makes you say they're not going to do that to the Hammonds or any American, any common American? This is ridiculous.
They clearly are. I mean, and unfortunately, I know too many cases, and it's disgusting. And so with this, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I apologize.
So
I'd like to add one thing here in regards to the Supreme Court. When you take someone like Cliven Bundy or Ammon Bundy or any of these other people, and you put them into solitary confinement, it violates some of the maxims of law. In our country, we are presumed to be innocent until we are proven guilty, and until we have our day in court, until we have had an opportunity to have a trial by jury. These are constitutional guarantees. Now, the thing that is totally out of line here, if you take the Eighth Amendment, which says is that the government shall not be allowed to impose cruel and unusual punishments. The punishments that these guys are receiving are based on the assumption that they're guilty. So it completely is wrong. Now, the Supreme Court can be replaced. They do not serve lifetime terms. Most people think they're appointed for life. That's not true. They're appointed for periods of good behavior. To me, the definition of good behavior is as long as the justices of the Supreme Court faithfully promote, provide, protect, and defend the Constitution, they're operating under good behavior. But when they ignore unconstitutional activities and do nothing about it, they're operating in bad behavior. I believe that the Supreme Court justices should all be impeached. They should all be dismissed. Every other profession that I know of, school teachers, doctors, dentists, lawyers, they all have to prove their competency. Stockbrokers, insurance agents, they have to prove that they're ethical. But the Supreme Court justices don't. And the thing that is so ironic, they're supposed to serve for periods of good behavior, but they're never evaluated. I think what we should do is every 2 years we should evaluate the Supreme Court justices, and we should dismiss the two that have the poorest voting records on constitutionality. We need to hold them
accountable. Go ahead, I apologize.
No, we need to hold them accountable. We need to judge them. And they need to know that if they get dismissed from the Supreme Court, they forfeit their pension.
And I totally agree with that. But the problem is they won't do it because This is a spider web. We gotta dissect everything. Remember, our legislators passed laws to incarcerate people. Just those laws that I just told you that they're operating under statutory laws are totally unconstitutional, and that's what they're operating on. What happened is the American Bar Association has infiltrated our learning institutions in all three branches of government. And until the American people realize and wake up that the American Bar Association and its members are the ones that subverted and perverted our constitutional rights, go ahead.
I don't think we've had constitutional rights since 1867, since the Construction Acts.
What I would like to see,
I think we've been out from, not lawfully. I mean, but they have suspended the Constitution in this country, and they
defrauded us
with all this.
They defrauded us. It's a de facto government,
right,
under the American Bar Association. I mean, this is plain and simple. Just by what I just read right now, and operating on the statutory law and admiralty law, it's ridiculous. It's not a constitution. The Constitution says on Article 6, Section 2, Clause 2, the supreme law of the land is the Constitution. What are we doing operating under admiralty law? What are we doing operating under statutory law? That's how they make their bread and butter, by imprisoning American people on petty crimes, by taking our children, stealing our children, by taking our lands, by taking our money. They have intentionally orchestrated this to defraud the American people. It's the American Bar Association.
Well, they've done it all over the world, Lazaro. We're just one of their most recent, and most glaring victims of this, and that the American people have gone along with it. It's absolutely absurd.
Patricia, I think
it is.
I think the thing that we need to do, we need to get the attention of our legislators. The power in this government was to be in the hands of Congress. We have basically, as a people, we have been irresponsible and we've been negligent. What we need to do essentially, I believe, and I think this is the key to the whole thing, when we have an election every 2 years, for the next two election cycles, we need to vote out every incumbent, period. Don't reelect anybody, okay? Right now, we have guys that have been in the Congress for 30 years, and they have a lot more power and authority than the newbies. All of the members of the House of Representatives should be equal under the law in terms of their power, and so we need to vote out every incumbent, number one. Number two, we must also, because the original 13th Amendment is not being observed, we need to make a personal effort to make sure that we never vote for a member of the Bar Association to serve in any branch of government.
Amen to that. I mean, I totally concur on that. And that's why we call it, it's articulated about title and nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the United States Constitution and Article 1, Section 10 of the United States of the Constitution. That validates the organic 13th Amendment of title of nobility. And what we have right now is a rogue government where even Anna K. Brown was appointed, David Ward was appointed, Stephen E. Grassley was appointed, not as a judge, but as other positions as a commissioner, as a budget administrator. So he's serving all three branches of government in his own town, which is Harney County. You have also.
Well, that's why you should call him King Grassley.
Well, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Remember what I talked about Monarch? There you go.
People are responding to this, Keith. I just want to hold you guys on here for a minute, and I agree. Elections are not the answer. How many times? I mean, if voting worked, they'd make it illegal too. All right. Obviously, when we have things like Diebold running in our company, I mean, no, it's not. We're not electing anybody. We're at most selecting them. I mean, it's the lesser of the evils. They don't put up real choices. I mean, yeah, I agree. Lily said that elections aren't the answer, and they haven't been. They haven't been.
They conceal tyranny.
Well, and you're right. Put it this way: you see these. It doesn't matter if it's a doggy and pony show between the Democrats and the Republicans. These people, all they do is fight it. At the same time, they turn around, and once they close that door, they laugh, they handshake, they have what do you call it, scotch, and then they laugh to the bank at our expense. Because remember, they represent us.
Hold on just a second. The two Republicans and Democrats are just two different wings of the same communist bird. They're two factions of the Communist Party that have taken over our country.
Patricia, one thing that I would like to see happen is I would like to see the people put pressure on their congressmen and say, look, if you do not if you don't abolish the Federal Reserve, if you do not declare the Supreme Court, if you do not declare the Federal Reserve unconstitutional, you will all be removed from office, because it's so clear in the Constitution that it says in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 2, it says the different powers. It says Congress shall have the power to coin money and to regulate the value thereof. It says it does not give the House of Representatives or the Senate the authority to give this authority away to a privately owned corporation. It's totally unconstitutional, and we need to demand no one who will allow this to stand is going to stay in office. We need to also put an end to the IRS. We also need to abolish the Federal Reserve, and we need to return the power to create the money. We need to restore that power to its rightful owner, which is the Congress of the United States.
And go back to the Money of Account, the Coinage Act of, I think it's 1872. But, okay, so those are the issues. And what I need to do is I need to say that you're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. This is Sacred Cow Barbecue. We are listener and volunteer supported around here, and we appreciate not having sponsors, so we can talk about some things usually that other places maybe can't talk about. So go over, buy something cool. There's some great stuff at freedomslips.com. Make a donation, get the archives, do some of those things. We appreciate the support. So, gentlemen, we're coming up on the end of the hour. I think we all need, this thing needs a change. How it's going to change, that's the big question. So do you have any hope for getting this out? I feel like the courts, as we can see, the Department of Justice has been completely taken over. It was not something that was designed by the founders to be part of this. This is a coup that's taken place with having a Department of Justice. It is a combination of the KGB and the Mossad rolled together, along with the IRS. It's ugly. And do you see any hope? I think in and of ourselves, I see no hope for the Bundy situation because the courts are so corrupt. And we just have to say that it's going to be up to the Almighty and putting our faith and trust and intention there. So, Lazaro, what do you say?
I hope so. I hope with the alternative media like yourself, Patricia, waking the American people out and giving us access to your show it's phenomenal. Put it this way, this is a prime example of why America is being dumbed down in Oregon. Les Zaitz, he is a news reporter, and he's tied with Uranium One. You have his wife, Acosta Callister. She works for the Blue Mountain. It's a Blue Mountain, the Oregonian Blue Mountain, and she's an editor and a reporter. So now you have the media in Oregon is all subverted by these individuals, including his brother, Lyndon Allen Zaitz. So they got the media locked down. I mean, there's nothing in Oregon that it's going to be difficult for anybody in the Oregon to know anything about this, and the mainstream media. And I'm glad that you picked this up because this is all through George Soros and Media Matters. And I'm so glad, and I'm happy for what you're doing. And this is this is not about me, and this is not about the Bundys and the Ammons. This is about the American people. Our minerals are being stolen, our waters are being stolen and being sold to foreigners, and violating Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, Article 6, Section 2, Clause 2, Article 4 of a republic. So what's going to happen? It's up to the American people. What are they going to do? Are they going to leave anything for their children and their grandchildren, or are we just going to sit back and let this criminal enterprise steal our fortunes?
Well, it's now or never.
Patricia, one thing I'd like to mention also, in the Constitution, the reason that the 13th Amendment, the original 13th Amendment, was created was because of the fact that there was no teeth in the Constitution. The Constitution has a clause in it already about the titles of nobility, and it prohibits people from accepting emoluments, or would you, if you will, bribes or campaign donations. That's illegal. And so Hillary Clinton, very cleverly, has been able to receive millions of dollars from the Saudi princes and the Oman and the United Emirates and all these Middle Eastern countries have been donating millions of dollars to get Hillary Clinton elected. The money is going into her foundation. She, in turn, is money laundering the money out of the foundation and into her political campaigns in order to get elected. She is violating this law, and of course, the Constitution doesn't describe a penalty, but on the other hand, the original 13th Amendment described a penalty, and it was called essentially that she would be stripped of her U.S. citizenship, and hopefully she would be deported. And I would like to see her deported to a place like Kenya.
Yeah, I don't know how we can deport someone. Who else would want her? Yeah, I totally, see, this is interesting. I think there's more than millions. I think there's probably billions going to Hillary Clinton's foundation. Don't you agree, Lazaro?
Oh, absolutely. 37 million. I mean, I got her lobbyist tied into Uranium One. Her lobbyist said they gave $7 million, another $37 million, and then God knows whatever profits they make. And this is one thing that the American people need to understand. Number one is that land is our land through our tax dollars, through our federal tax dollars. Those are our land. So my question to you guys is, where is that money going for when they rent, lease, or sell that property? Has anybody audited that money? The next question would be is, where in the Constitution does it give them the authority to rent, sell, or lease that land to foreigners or individuals? Show me in the Constitution where it states that. What's happening with the money that's being taken when they take off the lumber, like usually through there's so many names, through Boyd Britton, using this with King Williams and Jack Williams and Marissa Williams. Where's that money going from the lumber? Where's the money going from the minerals that's being extracted from our land using federal tax dollars? They profit $10 million. Is that money the American people's money, or is that their money? Because at the end of the day, that's the people's land. So who's auditing the money, and where in the Constitution does it give them the authority to sell, rent, or lease that land?
Right. Okay, I've got a wrap-up question here for you, Lazaro. I think we've got about 2 minutes. And so how does this affect the proceedings and how you think the court should, the political prisoners should structure their defenses? Is there something in this that will help them?
Absolutely. The American people. All on the American people. You know that, if this was Occupy Wall Street or Black Lives Matter, these Trump charges would have never happened. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter about Occupy Wall Street or Black Lives Matter, because we all got to come together, because at the end of the day, it's affecting our pockets. They're stealing our lands. With respect to that question, it all depends on the American people. If we're all willing to come collectively as one group and march back to our legislators to the Capitol and start restoring our constitutional rights. After we get done with our legislators, we go after the Bar Association. We strip them from what they have. We take everything away from them. We take their citizenship away, and then after that, we go down to the court and we reclaim our courts. All depends on the American people. And you know what? It's affecting you. If you get a speeding ticket, if you go through a divorce, if you pay child support, if they're stealing your land, it all comes to the government. They're doing it illegally and defrauding you under a de facto government. Unconstitutional laws.
It's just to me, it's just part of the greater Israel's world takeover, and our country has been led down the primrose path while we've been being entertained by American Idol and Dancing with the Stars and the Beach Boys and everything, for the last 60, 70 years. This thing has been ramped up, and it mostly in the last 4 years, it's like a freight train. And what we're seeing now is completely, amped up. It is like tyrannical government on steroids.
Patricia, my final comment I'd like to make, and that is the fact that if the word gets out, if we share the truth with lots and lots of people, and Cliven Bundy gets a trial by jury, what is the probability that 12 out of 12 jurists are going to find him guilty? I think that the possibility of the government to be able to successfully indict and prosecute and find these men guilty is can't happen. You're not going to find 12 people that are going to.
Two ranchers couldn't go to jail for setting a backfire that put out a fire that the BLM set either. But they manipulate the court so well and have such corrupt judges that the jury was never allowed to hear the information. There's something called jury nullification that we all know of, but there's reverse jury nullification where people can go back and say, no, the jury was not allowed to hear information. But, the corruption in the courts is a tough thing, and that's the linchpin, thing. So, gentlemen, Lazaro Ecenarro, thank you so much. You can find him on Facebook. Keith Brodus, he's available on Facebook as well. And we'll look forward to talking to you guys again. Thank you so much.